Hey, what's up everyone? Au5 here. Today I want to show you this cool little hack that I discovered for Razer, which is a plugin that works within Native Instruments Reaktor. Razer is a plugin that I've been using since 2011, which is when it came out, so it's fairly old, although it's very unique and really powerful. It's an additive synth that sort of acts as a subtractive synth in its interface, but you can do so much more. You can get timbres and sounds that you just couldn't get with any other form of synthesis. So simply put, an additive synth uses sine wave partials added together at different frequencies to create more complex sounds. Because of that, that's what makes additive synthesis really flexible as far as the kind of sounds that you can make. However, it does have some limitations because you do have a limited amount of sine wave partials. And that's what this little hack exploits. So back in 2011 or so, this was considered a very CPU intensive plugin because it produced up to 320 individual sine wave partials all playing simultaneously. So that's essentially like 320 oscillators that are playing per note. And that can get pretty CPU intensive really fast, but it's almost 2020 now, and CPUs have come a long way, and I think this could be pushed even further than what it was intended. So check this out. Here is Razer with an initialized patch. It just plays what sounds like a sawtooth wave. And I have a spectrum down here, and I'm gonna set this to linear mode, and I'm gonna start playing some notes and then transpose the octave down, and you're gonna see something. So right about this octave, you can start to see right around 20 kilohertz, there is a very steep cutoff. I'm gonna go down another octave. And because this is linear, it's very exaggerated, the frequency scale. So right here, you can definitely see right around 10 kilohertz, there's a really steep cutoff. And the reason behind that is because that's where the sine wave partials are capping out. There are no more sine wave oscillators that are playing any higher than 10 kilohertz. And if I drop it down an octave even lower, you're going to see that it caps out at about 5 kilohertz. And so a simple way around that would be to like introduce saturation or have another synth layered an octave higher to kind of fill in that really high frequency gap. But yeah, and an octave even lower, you can see it caps out around 2.4 kilohertz. But I was thinking, if there could be more sine wave partials, we can get significantly more high-end clarity inside of Razer. And this is what I discovered. So if you load up Razer in Reaktor, it's also important to note that you need the full version of Reaktor, not just Reaktor Player. The full version of Reaktor basically lets you go inside of whatever synth you have loaded up and manipulate, the individual parameters and modules that make the synth do what it does. And so in this case, what you're gonna do is I'm gonna hit edit, and then I'm going to hit this magnifying glass icon. And so by doing that, by hitting edit, this list pops up here. And what you can do is if you go into Razer Ensemble, you can start to see that there are modules that actually compose the entirety of the Razer plugin. So I'm going to show you how to get a much higher number of sine wave partials to get a much wider frequency range, so you can get real nice clarity in that treble. So what I'm going to do is go into Razer, and then I'm going to double click synth, and this is where everything gets kind of intricate. You can see that there are just modules upon modules connected to each other, and you can go really deep. To be honest, I don't know how most of this works. I was just messing around and looking specifically for things that in regards to like the partial count, the sine wave partial count. So basically what I discovered is there are 2 steps that you need to do in order to get a set number of partials. So you go from the main panel into Razer Ensemble, double click Razer into the synth, and then go into this other synth module. And then right here you see there it says sine bank. Now this is an important part of this whole synth, because this is what actually generates the sine wave partials. I'm going to double click that, and you're going to have 3 of these other sine banks. Now what you need to do is go up to this checkbox icon, and now you can actually edit these parameters. You can edit values inside of these modules. So right now you can see the max number of partials is 320 for each one of these. I believe each one of these sine banks is for the different quality modes, the high, medium, and low quality modes that you can choose within the Razer's interface here, but I'm not 100% sure. So 320 is, I'm playing, at C0, I believe I'm playing. 320 seems to cap out at 10 kilohertz. So I'm gonna bump this up. Let's bump this up to, I'm gonna do 1500. So I'm gonna do that for each. Now, it's important to note that this can get really CPU intensive really fast. In theory, you can do an unlimited amount. You can do like 10,000. I tried that though, and my CPU was capping out, and I'm using like almost a 4.0 gigahertz Threadripper. So that's kind of saying something. And also what ended up happening was Reaktor gave me this notification box that was like, there are too many partials that are trying to be played at once, and it just cut the audio out. So be careful with that. I would say start out with maybe 500 to 1,000, and then bump it up even more to see if your CPU can handle it. Or it really just comes down to if whatever sound you're trying to make really requires it. So the next step that you're going to do, once you set these sine banks to 1,500 partials for their max number, so you're going to go back one. You're going to go back into the second synth module, and then you're going to go into parameters. And now, if you go to PAIDX loop, I'm not really sure what that means, but if you double click that and go into there, what you'll see is this number right here, and that says 320. You're going to set this to whatever number you set in your sine partial banks. So in this case, 1500. And now I'm gonna play that same note, C0, and let's see how much more frequency range we get. Nice. This is already going above 20 kilohertz. I believe that there is a internal filter that kind of rolls off frequencies above 20 kilohertz, but as you can see, it's not like a brick wall filter, which means that there is probably more sine wave partials that are extending beyond what we see on the spectrum, except I haven't actually found if there is a filter within Razer that allows you to extend above 20 kilohertz. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, you're not really going to be able to hear anything higher than 20 kilohertz anyway. So I think it's kind of pointless to really push it that far. If anyone has discovered an output filter that takes the limit off of that 20K roll off, please comment and let me know if where that is within Razer. So this is really cool now. So you can play some really low octaves. I mean, I'm playing C-1. That doesn't even sound like a note, and you're still getting frequencies above 20K. And what's great about this is now you can do some really cool filtering. Here, I'm gonna make this a little smaller. You can do some really cool filtering. You can actually hear so much more clarity in the top end. Like this comb peak filter. It's profoundly cleaner. It's a multi-mode filter, and I believe this also works with the Foreman oscillators too. You get clarity much higher than you could before. I believe this also works with the reverbs and the unison noise. Super clean. Also, one last thing is you probably would want to save this as its own Reaktor ensemble, so you don't have to, every time you open up Razer, make those same edits and go into it. So if you want to load Razer with a much higher resolution, what you can do is once you've done that, you can go up to here where it says Reaktor, this little arrow right here, go to File and then hit Save As, and then you can save that in your ensembles. I would suggest saving it as like Razer High Res or something. I already have mine saved as such, but yeah, you don't want to overwrite the original Razer in case you have instances of Razer in previous projects. You don't want there to be any conflicts of it trying to find it or things sounding different. But yeah, saving it is just going to save you a lot of time, so you don't have to. So you only have to do that once, really. And you don't have to do that every single time you load up Razer. Thanks so much, guys, for checking out this tutorial. If you're interested in more music production tutorials, particularly sound design tutorials from me, I have a masterclass called School of Bass. You can check that out at courses.dawnation.net. It is a sound design masterclass with over 25 hours worth of content. We also have a free mini course for the School of Bass that you can try out to get a taste of what the full course is going to be. We go through a ton of different sound design techniques that I use, as well as song walkthroughs, me building a song from scratch, how to use a bunch of different Ableton stock plugins. And it's also important to note this is not exclusively for Ableton users, because a lot of the techniques that we do can also be translated to stock plugins in a bunch of other DAWs. So yeah, go over there and check that out. The link will be in the description. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.